Thinking about breaking up with your big tech firm and looking to make a new connection? Have you recently discovered a deeper appreciation for the life in work-life balance? Or are you tired of coding like buttons all day and you want to code cooler stuff with better purpose? Well then, swipe right on the Department of Veterans Affairs Office of Information and Technology. We're urgently hiring data scientists, software engineer, product management, and design and UX professionals right now. Now, we know you have choices, and let's face it, we probably are the most glamorous of them too. Because at OIT, we offer a lot of exciting, innovative, and enticing reasons to come work for us. Like, you'll have the opportunity to support the cross-pollination of key ideas in emerging technology fields to ensure the federal government can keep pace with the private sector. You'll collaborate with a diverse workforce who is as passionate about engaging with one another as they are in the things they're building. You'll build and maintain products and services that matter to the nearly 9 million veterans that we serve. And you'll enjoy competitive pay and benefits, which includes remote work locations. And you know what that means. Shorter commute times, flexible dress codes, snack and lunch options tailored specifically to your tastes, and cats. Lots and lots of cats, if that's your thing. So come be a part of the fastest growing IT workforce in the federal government. Learn more at digital.va.gov/careers or email oitcareers@va.gov.
Greetings. Welcome to today's Department of Veterans Affairs Office of Information and Technology's LinkedIn Live event addressing hiring myths. Thank you for joining us. I'm Army veteran Dan Hunter, a communications specialist for VA's Office of Information and Technology, and I will be your moderator for today's discussion. VA provides opportunities to use technology to develop and deliver innovative products and services for our nation's veterans. Today, Nate Tierney, the Deputy Chief Information Officer and Chief People Officer, is going to talk about IT hiring and addressing hiring myths. He'll describe workforce benefits, which includes competitive pay, flexible work schedules, along with a host of other topics. We encourage questions in the comments. If we don't get to your question, we will make the response available to you either on this link or streamed through one of our social media platforms. Today's discussion is being streamed on LinkedIn and the YouTube platforms, and a recording will be available immediately after the event. The agenda for today's event will be the Office of Information Technology Hiring Myths by Nate Tierney, Application Resources by Nate Tierney. We'll also take questions and he will offer a closing comment. So without further ado, I present to you and will turn the mic over to Nate Tierney. Nate, the floor is yours.
Hey, thank you, Dan, very much for allowing me to be here. I hope everybody's excited. This is going to be a myth-busting episode, so let's get started. If you go to the next slide, please. Not that one on my face. All right, here we go. OIT is hiring, right? The Department of Veterans Affairs Office of Information Technology is hiring. And OIT is committed to recruiting and retaining a world-class IT workforce to deliver high-quality IT products and services to our nation's veterans, their families, and caregivers. Veterans like me, I'm counting on technologists to help solve my problems so I can get access to my healthcare and the benefits and other services that I earn through my service. We have outstanding opportunities for our career pathways. We have coaching and mentoring programs, rotational programs. We touch all kinds of different products throughout the service. And I got to tell you, a career in public service in OIT is more than just a job. It's a rewarding experience that allows our employees to really make a measurable impact in veterans' lives, their caregivers, and their families. There's just limitless possibilities with what we can do and touch across this country. All right, next slide, please. All right, so I get asked, this is probably the one common thing when I reach out to people, is there's this myth out there that the government job is not as exciting as industry. right? That there's too much bureaucracy. And I'm here to tell you that's false. If we go to the next slide, let me tell you the truth. There we go, to the next slide. Right now I'm in Austin, Texas, and in Austin we say keep it weird. So maybe it's getting weird with getting these slides from one to the next. All right. But if you put up the true slide about busting the myth of the government bureaucracy, we'll launch right in. First and foremost, we are here to serve veterans and their families, right? We have multiple medical centers across the country, benefit centers, right? We have veterans getting their health care, their educational benefits, going to school, participating in groups like Student Veterans of America, right? Taking it to the next level of service for our country. And so that mission, there's just no better or more noble mission than that. And if you think about it, how we're organized, we're actually, as an IT company, we're more aligned to the private sector than you may think. We operate by product lines. We have product engineering teams working with complex APIs, focused on AI. We have an awesome CTO in our Office of Information Technology as well. And we do a plethora of other things on the financial side, the human capital side. I mean, again, I can't overemphasize that it's limitless and it is not a bureaucracy. But we do sometimes fill out TPS reports in triplicate, but who doesn't do that, right? The other thing is like for the tech workers, if you want to grow, right? If you want to take it to the next level of racing ahead of technology instead of behind it, again, you have an opportunity to touch multiple different systems, design cutting-edge solutions that even helped us through the pandemic, right? A lot of people don't know it, but the fourth mission of the VA is actually to provide healthcare and services to all our citizens. And we did that effectively through use of technology, skilled healthcare workers, and a combined team to serve our country. We're really also focused on creating a culture that is as diverse as the veteran population we serve, right? We want people of color, of the LGBTQ community, women, minorities, people with disabilities to join our team. You bring diverse set of ideas that lead to creativity and innovation that deliver ultimately better IT products and services to veterans. So join the team. You can make a difference. And trust me, it's not as bureaucratic as you think. Well, minus the TPS reports and triplicate, right? And lastly, we're committed to transparency. We have this saying in OIT about embracing the red, right? We want to learn from our mistakes, right? We want to take it to that next level of operational excellence and engineering excellence and focus on people. And so we do that each and every day. And I just cannot encourage you enough to join the team. Next slide, please. All right, here's the second myth I hear. Compensation, right? That you won't get paid as much as you do in the private sector industries. Well, that's false. Go to the next slide. Let me explain why. The truth is, VA offers really strong starting salaries with steady growth opportunities. And we offer things like recruitment incentives, relocation incentives, retention incentives. We've also made recent changes in compensation to tackle pay disparity through a special salary rate for our IT specialists. That closes that gap between the private sector pay in IT and what our previous government employees were getting in the domain of IT. We also offer a pension that continues for a lifetime. I read that there's companies about equal to our size, right? Because we have well over a $7 billion budget for IT, that there's only about 14 companies across the country that actually have a pension comparable to ours. So think about that, right? For your families, for your long-term health and growth, right? After you retire. It's a great place to be as in the government. We also offer a 401k. It's a thrift savings plan that matches 5% per pay period. And guess what? We got 26 pay periods per year. So that's a whole lot of matching going on. We also have service awards to recognize our employees. We offer monetary special contribution awards as well as additional time off. So we've made great strides on the compensation front to close that gap. So if you're worried about pay, it's not as bad as you may think. Next slide. All right, vacation time. Who doesn't love vacation time, right? Well, if you think you're not going to have as much vacation time between the private sector and being in the public and the federal government, well, that's false. Next slide, please. The truth is, as an OIT employee, you receive 11 paid holidays right off the bat. In addition to that, you start with anywhere between 13 to 26 days of paid annual leave. In addition to that, you start with 13 sick days annually, and there's no limit on accumulation. I mean, if you think about this, if you do the quick math, right, that equates to about 7 to 10 weeks of paid time off each year that you can pursue your passions, spend time with family, or read a book. And in some cases, OIT also offers credit for your job-related non-federal experience, or active duty service members who have been deployed across the country or the world. You can get credit, which means you can start with actual more annual leave from day one. Next slide, please. This is another myth I hear, that you're going to have to relocate, right? I'm going to be relocated to Alaska. Not that Alaska is not a great place, right? But, you know, that's false. If you go to the next slide, right? The truth is we have tech openings all across the United States and our territories. And we highly promote remote work. In fact, we've pushed over 60% of our workforce remote. That's huge. You don't have to come into the office, you know, and deal with those long commutes. You can work from home, right? And still be productive. We also have flexible and compressed work schedules that allow 1 to 2 days off per pay period are available to really maximize your, not only your productivity, but to give you that time back, right? To have that time with your significant others, your kids, or other pursuits. Next slide. All right, another benefit, right, that we offer, and I've heard it, right, that, you know, some people are concerned that they're going to lose their industry 401k match and other benefits. The reality is that's false. In my opinion, you're going to gain more. Go to the next slide. Let's talk about some of the truths. All right. So the truth is we have many benefits available. So I'm just going to go through this. I mentioned earlier the thrift savings plan. It's a federal 401k plan where we match 5% per pay period. Okay. We also have the pension. It's called the Federal Employee Retirement System, FERS. That's your pension, where you get a portion of your salary, your high three, after years of service. Okay. In addition to that, maternity leave, you can get up to 12 weeks. Whether you're the mother or the father, you can have time, those critical moments. I remember with my babies, right? Being there for them, holding them, helping with diaper duty, right? Building that relationship. We have that. We also have health insurance, which is extremely affordable and helpful, particularly if you have a child or a loved one with a pre-existing condition. You know, my own son, you know, 9 years old, and he has type 1 diabetes. Thank God for good insurance to cover for his medical devices, his insulin. We have flexible spending accounts, right? This is where you can put some money in for childcare or health savings accounts, etc. All right, and get some tax deferments on it. Long-term life insurance, right? That again doesn't penalize you for pre-existing conditions. Social Security, Medicare, you know, I'm sure you're familiar with those. Mentioned life insurance. We've got employee assistance programs. We've got childcare programs, and we're also pioneering a new employee wellness program. A lot of benefits, and these are just some of the highlight reels. Next slide. you go to the next slide, please. All right. Hey, I wanted to go through there and just debunk some of the common myths that people have reached out to me about. And really, I wanted to also use this forum to answer some of your questions you may have as we go live with this. And based on the feedback we get today as well, expect future events where we can do a deep dive into like cracking the code of federal resumes, right? And debunking some of those other myths out there. You know, again, I cannot overemphasize this. The Office of Information Technology is where you want to be. There is no better mission than to serve veterans and their families. If you're a software engineer, love product line management, you're into accounting, human resources, whatever, we've got spots for you. We're looking for the most highly qualified individuals who want to give back. So with that, Dan and Lou, let's open up some of the questions. Dan, I can't hear you right now. Sorry.
We do have some questions from the audience, Nate. The first one is, do I need a government resume to apply to a job at OIT, or can I use my standard resume? If so, where can I turn to for help in developing one?
Sure. Well, okay, first off, the government resumes are a little bit different, all right? In the sense that, if you're used to like that traditional private sector 2-page resume, that's not going to actually capture your knowledge, skills, and abilities to the level where your resume will get before a hiring manager, right? And I'm just being real with you. Last year, we got about 226,000 applicants for some of our positions, and they get screened. And so there are methods to update your resume beyond that 2 pages, up to maybe 5. But the big thing is to capture what it is you do, right? And also to kind of like focus on the results of those actions. So, I'll take that as an action item. I'm happy to put together a course, if you will, on debunking some of the myths around federal resumes, as well as offering some coaching on things to look for, right? And ways to improve. More than happy to do that. So we'll go on to the next question.
Thanks, Nate. Next question is, how long does it typically take to hear back from HR, and how long does the hiring process take?
Okay. In all seriousness, this is probably one of the more bureaucratic things that happens in the federal government, right? For our Title V employees, we have an 80-day time to hire standpoint. And yes, I just said 80 days. Okay, that is a long time, and I recognize that. So what happens is you apply, it goes through a screening process, it goes through a resume review team, it gets reviewed by the hiring manager, interviews are scheduled, job offers go out, they do some background checks to make sure that you're suitable for the job, you get a final job offer, an expected date of coming on, right? But all of that, unfortunately, takes longer than what many of you in the private sector are used to. Okay. So we are trying to find ways of compressing that timeline through the use of things like virtual hiring events. We just did one on Tech2Gov, right? Where, you submit your resume, you get into the queue, you talk to the hiring manager. We have an opportunity to turn a job offer, right, using direct hire authority a lot faster than the normal process of applying on USA jobs. Okay. For those of you in the private sector who have dealt with like your monster.jobs or your indeed.com, that is the traditional process in the federal government. And that is what I'm committed to try to driving a change to. Okay. So we recognize that we need to speed it up, particularly when you're trying to scoop up tech talent, right? I mean, highly qualified tech talent, they go fast, even with the recent layoffs, right? So we've got to be faster in order to be competitive. And we recognize that. And believe me, I've created a new crew, Bureaucracy Busters. So we're going to bust that bureaucratic standard and get it faster so we can bring talent on board. Because again, we need your help designing cutting edge IT products and services to serve veterans. So we need you. All right, what's the next question?
Does VA offer training programs if I want to grow my skills?
Yeah, when you come in, we do have training programs. We have a lot of opportunities within. In fact, what we spend on training is a lot more than most people think, right? For courses, for professional development, we have certified coaches to help you through it. We have rotational programs. We offer certificates, like in the cybersecurity arena. We just signed a partnership with the Department of Labor to kick off a cyber apprenticeship program focused on some of the more underserved areas that normally wouldn't have opportunities. So there are plenty of training opportunities. And, I'm blessed to have on my team our IT workforce development folks who are focusing on new career tracks and doing it in partnership with other federal agencies to include the Department of Defense, so that as a veteran separates from service, they can transition into maybe a VA job, get trained up through an apprenticeship program, right? Or an internship program. And then maybe they go off to your Amazons, your Googles, or whatnot. But a lot of touch points, a lot of training opportunities, and a focus on employee development.
Thanks, Nate. We have another question. It's tied to security clearances. Mm-hmm. And the question is, are you required to have a security clearance? And if so, will VA help you attain it?
Yes. Okay. So for our jobs, obviously we require a background check. That is no different than any private sector company I know. In addition to that, depending on what you're being hired to do, right? If you're focused on cybersecurity, you're going to need a high-level security clearance, right? If you're dealing with patient healthcare data, you need to have a security clearance, right? So that process, yes, we do help you, right? And as a candidate, right? If you're selected, you'll be providing information, and our security teams will do the appropriate security clearance, background checks, et cetera, to process that. That does take a little bit longer. I remember that even when I went into the military, right? But yes, we do help you attain it.
Thanks, Nate. The next question is, will the opportunity to maintain remote work stay consistent?
On my watch, yes. Yes, right? We have proven that during COVID, when we had to really shift to remote work, that our employees were actually more productive, right? That they were able to focus without as many distractions or meetings, right? On the product that they are trying to achieve. And so we're very goal-oriented. I believe strongly in hey, here's a clear function, here's the tasks, here's the deliverables, and it really helps. So yes, I don't foresee any change to our remote work posture. We do have positions, though, that work directly in the medical center. And when we advertise those positions for those applicants that are selected, some of them are required to be, like as an example, in our medical centers or our benefit centers. So just be aware, not all jobs in OINT are in fact remote. Like I mentioned earlier, over 60% of them are, but there are some that are not.
Thanks, Nate. And this next question is, what benefits does VA offer that people may not know about?
Well, I think I highlighted a lot of them, right? In that, a lot of people, they don't realize, how diverse we are. One, we're a cross section of society, and we really want that culture that welcomes people in, celebrates the diversity, learns from one another, spawns innovation and creativity, right? As far as some of the other benefits, I mentioned that we're constantly adapting. I've got another team, the organization development and engagement team, led by Tracy Lovin. Amazing. We focus heavy on the employee experience now, right? Because I want to understand what's working well, as well as what are those pain points? How can we deliver a better employee experience? Because I kind of think of employees as customers, right? You can either buy what I'm selling or not, or you can go somewhere else and find a new job, right? So, making sure that we deliver that seamless, awesome employee experience is critically important to us. And that shapes some of the benefits that we've created, right? For example, we've increased our amount of special contribution awards. We've listened to the fact that, there is disparity in pay between the private sector and public. So we go out and we address that. Employee wellness program that I mentioned, right, is critically important. Opening up more opportunities for remote work. The federal government, as I mentioned earlier, offers life insurance, dental coverage, health care insurance, right? There's a lot of different things and benefits to us that I think you'll find enticing if you were to join our team. What else?
Yeah, this next question is on the SSR implementation. Any news on SSR implementations that are on the horizon?
Yeah, the Office of Personnel Management approved the SSR. It's now going through, the rollout piece in communications with other federal agencies. Obviously, we need to ensure that we have funding for it. And we're planning right now to execute once our budget is approved. Just for you guys that don't know, in the federal government, we work off of a fiscal year. So it starts on October 1st, and we have an annual budget within OIT. So we have to do some planning. We normally don't make big changes in the middle of the year. And that's just a constraint that we have. But we are heavily focused, and we shall implement that SSR. Okay.
And Nate, this will be our last question. And I'm just going to remind the audience, if we did not get to your question, don't worry. We've taken them down, and we will be getting back to you by sharing a blog in the upcoming days that answer these questions, and we'll post a link here. This last question is, what is the most rewarding part? What is most rewarding about a career at VA?
I think it's the opportunity to serve next to other professionals who are committed to taking care of veterans and their families, and fulfilling Lincoln's promise. And I think that for me is the most fulfilling, knowing that you're making a difference in somebody's lives. And on the technology side, being able to pioneer things. Like, if I recall, the VA was the first to pioneer an electronic healthcare record back in the 70s, right? And that technology is now immersed into our private sector industries and used throughout. Or we focused on our other healthcare research, or now we're looking heavily at how do we solve illnesses under the PACT Act for those exposed to toxic exposure. I mean, you can really, you just feel it around you, each and every day. I think of my wife's grandfather who raised her. Picture's up there. The picture was taken on D-Day, after landing on D-Day. He was in the first wave. He was hit. He had to spend a couple of days after the mortar hit him, got evacuated back to England, had to come back and fight the remaining of the war. People like that deserve our care. So I find that the most rewarding part of serving in the Department of Veterans Affairs. And Dan, I will mention, there's a question that popped up, question 10. So as we end this myth busting, yes, I do love the movie Office Space, but no, I don't have a red stapler on my desk. So thanks again for asking these questions. We'll make sure we get back to you with the rest of the answers. And again, thank you for this time, Dan, and the rest of the ITWT studio team for putting this together. So thank you very much.
We can go to the resources slide so you can talk about those.
Sure.
And with that, any final comments?
Yeah. I encourage you, if you want to check it out, there's a link to the OIT careers page. We talk about what it's like to serve. We also have videos that, you don't just have to hear from me, but you can hear from people that are actually in the organization, serving in those critical roles, about what they think about the culture within OIT. Got some links to the application process, which will also help debunk some of those myths. I pledge to you to come back, kind of navigate through some more myths and give some techniques and tools that you can put in your proverbial toolkit to navigate the federal resume process and hiring process. And then lastly, if you've got questions, right, I encourage you to send it out to ontcareers@va.gov. My team is there, standing by to respond, to help you navigate. And again, this is a team effort. With the amount of veterans we serve, I think it's 9 million that come through our healthcare system alone. Right? There's about 14 million living veterans across this country. I read that there's about 76 million descendants of veterans. So if you add that all up, that means almost a third of this country, this United States of America, is somehow directly connected to a veteran. So in closing, I'd just like to say, if you're a technologist out there looking for a career, you're passionate about serving others, I want you to apply and join the Office of Information Technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Nate, and thank our audience for attending. Stay in touch with us on social media with our Twitter page or LinkedIn. Engage with us on our social media platforms. And remember, it's a great VA day. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great day.